Hey guys, here's this month's episode from The Vault, episode 74 of season 3. Ed and I had a discussion about our various hospital experiences here in Bangkok, from good to bad to weird. I think most of these stories still hold up. Thai healthcare is still a really good deal, but you do pay for the good stuff if you need it. One quick update story with a tech twist, though. I recently had to do a medical checkup for my work permit, as all foreigners here do, and that includes an x-ray, chest x-ray. The doctor at the time noticed a cloud on my lung, which she recommended I get looked at, which is, you're like, ooh, that doesn't sound good. Long story short, everything's fine. I saw my regular doctor, and he did another test, and said it was just a shadow of all things. But the funny thing is, I gave ChatGPT my old x-ray that the doctor said I should get checked up, and the new one that my regular doctor took, and I asked for a diagnosis, and it basically said the exact same thing as the doctor said. It said it's probably just a shadow. So one wonders how Thai hospitals everywhere actually, will cope with the rise of AI, and fingers crossed that there'll still be a human involved for the next little while anyway. All right, I'm off. Enjoy, guys. Thanks. On this episode, we discuss the ups and downs and ins and outs of visiting a hospital in Bangkok.
So, if you're curious about medical care in Bangkok and want to hear a few strategies we've learned along the way, you'll love this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Thailand in 2001 and who looks absolutely ridiculous in a pair of changkaben, or those traditional Thai silk trousers.
I got to say, you do look ridiculous in those.
How do you know? You haven't seen me in those.
I can imagine it. And I met Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract 18 and a half years ago, almost 19 years, and I've been waiting for cannabis to be legalized, so I never left.
Well, you might have to leave soon.
That's right.
Or maybe stay longer.
Yeah, I never decided what will happen when cannabis is actually legalized. I've just been waiting for it. Anyway, before we start, a huge thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. For more info on how you can become a patron, just head to the support page on bangkokpodcast.com. And of course, one of the cool things our patrons get is an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we talk about current events in Thailand and whatever else comes into our minds. We just finished recording this week's bonus show, and we chatted about some news about Thailand's medical marijuana business, hence my intro. The news that maybe, just maybe, certain Thai bars in entertainment zones will be able to stay open until 4 a.m. And also a huge box of Canadian snacks that Greg got from a friend in the motherland, and from which Greg is going to give me some maple syrup.
Yeah, I need to give you some maple syrup, otherwise I'm going to be in the hospital with diabetes. It's just not going to be a good scene.
I'm going to take you up on that, man. I mean, as I said in the bonus show, I'm from the north coast of America. I live on Lake Erie, man, and so I'm almost Canadian, and I love maple syrup.
You're an honorary Canadian.
I'll take it as long as that comes with maple syrup.
Right. Well, our buddy Ashley from the Daisy May and the Bangkok Podcast official tugboat in New York, he bought us a bottle of Adirondack maple syrup.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice
good stuff.
I'm in.
And by the way, those traditional Thai pants, those chongkaben, when we were getting married, we were trying on all these clothes and stuff like that. It's not related to anything we're talking about, by the way. But I decided, I'm like, I think I should just wear a regular suit. And my wife was like, well, try on the traditional Thai thing. So we went to the store and I tried it on and I came out and she looked at me and went, no, right immediately.
That's great. I think I have one, my wife and I, we did wedding photos, and I also put on some of that traditional clothes, but I think I went pretty minimal. Like as soon as I saw the rack of stuff, I'm like, no, I don't think I can do that.
Not made for fat Western men. Let me just say that.
Yeah, it doesn't. I guess some Westerners look okay in it, but not everybody.
Yeah, like a mustache. It's kind of like a mustache. Only a certain number of guys can pull that off. All right. Well, before we jump into it, we have to mention our buddy Grant, who startled me the other day because check this out, Ed. I didn't tell you the story yet. I was waiting for the BTS on the way to work the other day, and some guy walks, but then suddenly I see this sort of like large shadow pass in front of me, and this guy walks by me and smacks my shoulder like that. Whoa. And I look up, I'm like, what? And he points at his ears and he goes, "I'm listening to you right now."
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
It was one of our patrons, one of our buddies named Grant, and he lives close to me actually. And I was just like, "What?" I was startled because I was listening to my serial killer podcast, the last podcast on the left, which is one of my favorites.
That is such a weird.
But he's like, I'm sorry, I startled you. And I was like, no problem. It happens from time to time. But it was just very funny and very surreal. I'm listening to you right now.
It's funny, those weird, those like spontaneous slaps, they can be very startling. It's like, there's something about that where like someone sees you and they're like, hey, and, and I've done it to other people too, where after you do it, you realize, oh God, that was kind of hard.
Yeah. Or like, oh my God, I must have looked like an idiot. Just like deer in headlights. What?
Yeah. That happened to me once. This is the only time I can remember where it's like, I've definitely made mistakes in class, but they don't involve touching students. But I was in class once, and I happened to have what did I have? I had like I think I had like lecture notes in my hand that were kind of like rolled up, and I was walking down this aisle, and I had been bugging the students like to stop talking or stop using their phones or something. There was a student on the aisle, and he just started talking or like doing exactly what I'd already told him 10 times not to do. And I smacked him right in the face with like these notes, lecture notes.
Jeez,
like I was just like smack. And as soon as I did it, I was like, holy crap. Like, I can't believe I did that.
Oh, but like I was fired for that.
I smacked him right in the face with like the lecture notes. And I couldn't believe it. Like there was zero forethought involved. It was, I guess I did it, but it's not like I really intended to do it. He just annoyed me at like the exact wrong time. But I think it's like those slaps. It's like you run into someone, you're like, hey, and you smack someone and you're like, oh shit. Like that was a little bit too hard,
Yeah, no, but we always like running into listeners around Bangkok. So hello, Grant, and thanks for saying hi. And if you see me or Ed out on a boot, then let us know. Say hi. We like it.
Yeah, but try not to like slap us inappropriately strongly.
Or the face with papers. Jeez.
Yeah, don't smack me in the face with paper just because I did it to someone else.
All right, well, in this episode, we wanted to yak a little bit about hospitals in Thailand. Now, most people who live in Bangkok have experience in a hospital and would know that things like the level of service, the facilities, the cost, and the reputation varies greatly from hospital to hospital. So Ed and I have both spent our fair share of time in them, and we wanted to discuss some of the good experiences, some of the bad experiences, and a few funny stories, do's, don'ts, and definitely avoids based on our experiences in hospitals. So,
agreed. Now let me do a little intro. In fact, I've got two mini intros. One of them is a lawyerly intro, and what I want to say is, in case our listeners don't know, Thailand has defamation laws which are very friendly towards big institutions like corporations or big hospitals. For example, in the States, if you say something about a person or a company and it's true, then that is kind of a defense. So we say truth is a defense to claims of slander or libel.
I see.
But that's not the way Thai law works. In other words, even if you say something true, you can be guilty of defamation if you didn't have the right to say it, or if you're violating their privacy in some way. In this podcast, when we speak critically of hospitals, Greg, I'm going to suggest as our official counsel that we not name hospitals specifically.
Yeah, I'd say that's good. We're not out here to bust down doors or break open any breaking news stories. So yeah, we're if we got good things to say, we'll definitely say where it happened. But bad things to say, we'll
legally, I think it's a good idea. And my second little intro point I want to make is this, and I want to make clear to the listeners that in general, according to official evaluations, Thailand has pretty damn good medical care. That is the simple truth. Like, especially compared to neighboring countries.
I think we're very lucky to live here because it's in Asia. It's not like a rich country compared to Western countries, but it is a rich country compared to its neighbors, and it has a very good level of healthcare for most people if you can afford it.
For the money. For the money.
I
think that, I saw that's kind of the intro point that, and I think I want our listeners to understand that the value proposition here is very good for the medical care. In terms of how much you're paying and what you get, I think it's an excellent deal. I mean, is it the best in the world? Probably not, but it's pretty damn good.
Yeah, I agree. The most cogent example of this is actually kind of an awful story, but when I was on a visa run years and years ago, I was standing in the border, not Irani-Pertet, but some little border town that they were using as an alternate border crossing between Cambodia and Thailand. And we were just standing in line waiting for our passports to be processed. And suddenly out of nowhere, this pickup truck, like we were waiting to get back into Thailand. So this pickup truck burned up behind us in Cambodia and like skidded to a stop at the border, and all these people were running around screaming, and they lifted up this guy out of the back of the pickup truck. And what I eventually learned later was that he had his leg blown off by UXO, by unexploded ordnance.
Oh, wow.
In Cambodia, like stepped on a landmine.
Oh, nightmare.
And had his leg blown off. Yeah, and they rushed him into Thailand, like they ran across the border, carrying this poor bastard. So you're like, wow, yeah, Thailand is the place to be.
I mean, that's a perfect example of this advice. And, I don't want to speak for our travel experts. We have a bunch of travel experts we had on the show, whether it's, Stuart McDonald from Travelfish or Trevor or Scott from Talk Travel Asia. Those guys are the real experts. But I think it's generally considered true that in this part of the world, Thailand and Bangkok in particular is probably the best place to be if you have a medical problem.
Right.
And and it's funny, I don't want to, I'm going to let you talk, Greg. I promise you'll get your chance.
Oh, good. Cause that never happens.
I realized a third general point that must be made on this issue.
What?
So my third general point is that, especially compared to the U.S., they don't have the same legal protections for medical malpractice that you see in the West. And I think compared to Canada, but especially compared to the U.S. So even though I think medical care here is a good deal, if something goes wrong, and let's say you have to sue a hospital or sue a doctor, the likelihood that you get some compensation is probably good, but you will not get the type of compensation that you'd probably get in the West. So I don't think Thailand is some type of, certainly no type of medical heaven or anything like that. But I think that, like for certain types of medical, procedures, it's a very good deal here. But let's tell some of our stories, because we've got a lot of specific stories to tell.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a couple stories. I don't really have anything that's terribly amusing or like, life shattering or like really, really valuable for people. But I do have some amusing, funny stories and some interesting maybe strategies to use when you're dealing with hospitals here. But I wanted to start things off with a funny story, and I always tell this story because when I was at the Bangkok Christian Hospital on Silom Road, which I think is a pretty good hospital,
good reputation, I would say.
Yeah, it's not like a high-so hospital. The doctors there speak okay English. Most of the nurses don't speak very much English, but it's pretty good, I think. I've been there a few times for a bunch of different stuff, but a long time ago I was getting something done there, and they give you a form to fill out. And this was when I was still fairly new in Thailand, and they give you the form to fill out, and I filled out all my information and name and stuff like that. But it asks for your religion. So I left that blank because you can't legally ask that on official forms in most Western countries.
Right.
So I just left it blank. So the nurse took my blood and blah, blah, blah. She's walking me down to the examination room or whatever it was. And I hear this like running behind me, sir. And she pointed and she's like, you forgot to fill out your religion. And I realized like this is the Bangkok Christian Hospital. So it was a hospital, started by a Christian mission. And I'm assuming it still has a large Christian sort of aura around it, no pun intended. And so I took it and I was like, oh, well, I mean, I can't write atheist. So I wrote Jedi.
I love it.
And I gave it back to the woman. I was like, oh, okay. And I wrote Jedi, gave it back to her. And the look on her face was like trying to like, what is this? Like, it's not I've never heard of this. She was sort of like trying to contemplate this weird religion that I'd written down. So But it didn't affect my treatment or the the ease of access to medical care or anything
as
like that.
far as you know,
sort of a paperwork format. Yeah, as far as I know, they did sew a breast onto the back of my head. But
it's funny. I wonder if you just wrote down atheist, like what would happen. It's kind of weird that they made you fill that out. It's interesting. Something like a religious question, it might have a place, and I don't even know what U.S. law is on that specific thing. Because, some people might want to talk to a priest, or if they're dying, or they might want whatever last rites. So
that's a good point. I never thought of that.
I'm thinking that in the U.S., it certainly wouldn't be required, but they might ask. I wonder if hospitals might possibly ask in the States. I'm not sure. I don't remember that happening. But
just as soon as before the doctor puts on a mask and he goes, "Okay, ready to go under?" I'll just push his hand away and look at him in the eye and go, "Do or do not." There is no try.
That's right. You want your surgeon to be a Jedi. That's really what you want.
That's right. He pulls out a lightsaber to operate on me. Whoa.
It's funny when it comes to specific Thai hospital stories. It's fascinating because I have some incredibly good ones, and I can honestly say that Bangkok hospitals have saved my life. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, and I can't remember. God. What is this, show 74? Is that right?
This is 74, yeah.
Yeah, so I can't remember what I've talked about, but I am a cancer survivor, and I was diagnosed with cancer at a Thai hospital here in Bangkok, and I survived, and I got cured, or apparently cured, and also the way that it happened, it really was kind of a judgment call of the doctor to run some tests. In other words, it's like I had a problem. The doctor thought it was one thing, gave me like a shot, but I specifically remember him saying, we better check this and let's get you an ultrasound. So he was kind of going extra a little bit, and then that ultrasound found a tumor, and I ended up getting diagnosed with cancer, had surgery, had the tumor removed, survived, everything is good. But at the same hospital, I needed to get a psychological evaluation of my wife. It's a very long story. It had to do with a job she had, and I just needed to get a psychological evaluation, not because something was wrong, but because nothing was wrong. So it's like I went in with my wife and talked to a psychiatrist, and basically the idea was we just wanted her to undergo an evaluation, and of course we wanted, we assumed the evaluation would say, okay, as far as we can tell,
right, she's normal, no problems.
And it ended up being this weird, ugly argument where the psychiatrist was like, well, if she's not symptomatic, it's like I can't examine her.
Yeah.
And I was like, no. So I'm trying to explain to the guy, I don't think there's anything wrong with her. I just want you to verify that as far as just whatever, give her the test, interview her. I don't know, I don't know what psychiatrists do. I'm just like, don't you have tests? I thought there were like psychological tests. Isn't that what you do for a living? So I was just like, evaluate her and then write down what you think. That's all we're asking. And basically they refused to do it. It ended up being a fairly ugly thing. And I felt somewhat vindicated because we had no choice but to leave and go to another hospital, which was actually a competitor, another famous Bangkok International Hospital, which I won't name either of them. But we go into like this other famous Bangkok International Hospital, sit down with a psychiatrist. I explain exactly the same thing. And the doctor's like, so you just need me to evaluate her? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, okay. And he like asked me to leave. He talked to her for 20 minutes, wrote a report, just said, as far as I can tell, she's normal. And I was just like, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's weird because medical care is like a service industry. A lot of it just depends on the person. Like some doctors just give good service. It's like they have good customer,
they
have good customer relations abilities, and other doctors don't. They just don't have that.
And that's what I learned here dealing with Thai hospitals is the value of a second opinion. And another interesting angle to this whole discussion we're having is that I left Canada when I was 26. And when you're 26, you're invincible. Nothing can hurt you. You don't have any, I've luckily had very little experience with the Canadian healthcare system. I never paid for anything or anything like that. But I don't really know the strategies and the shortcuts and how to deal with this and that because I was 26 years old. What 26-year-old knows all the nuance of dealing with the federal healthcare system? So I learned a lot in Thailand, and I really did learn the value of second opinions. And the doctors are just people; they're just doing their job. It's like a mechanic. Like one mechanic can say, oh, nothing's wrong with your car, and then another mechanic can hear a sound and go, oh yeah, it's probably this. And I know that's a sloppy analogy, but you get what I'm getting at. One of the stories I have for this is when I may have mentioned this on the show before, but I had something with my foot. It wasn't anything major, but I went to one major hospital in Bangkok, a well-known hospital, and I said, this thing on my foot, and they took a whole bunch of x-rays, and the doctor said, yeah, well, this is going to cost about 70,000 baht. We've got to cut it out and get in there with, file the bone down or whatever. And I was like, ooh, I didn't have insurance at the time. And I said, okay, well, it's not going to happen, but thanks for your time. And then he gave me the x-rays, and I took the x-rays to another well-known hospital. And I came in and I said, I got this thing on my foot. Here's the x-rays. What do you say? And I was fully expecting much the same thing. But the guy was like, He looked really closely at the x-rays. He goes, I don't think this is an operation or anything like that. He goes, try this cream. And he gave me this cream, 600 baht.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 600 baht. And went home. A week later, 100% recovery.
Oh,
no
wow.
problems whatsoever.
I mean, that definitely tells you the value of a second opinion. Where I thought here's where I thought this story was going to go. And I think this is a worthwhile thing for our listeners to know. And actually, I'm curious what you say about this. When I think of Thai hospitals, I group Thai hospitals into 3 tiers. It's just the way I look at it. Okay? So to me, the cheapest hospitals are Thai government hospitals that are part of their like universal healthcare system. For our listeners that don't know, in Thailand they have something called the 30 baht healthcare scheme, and 30 baht is basically $1. And and essentially Thai citizens qualify for this, but you do have to like sign up for it and register. And it's mostly poor people that sign up for this program. But more or less, it allows you to get medical care for $1.
Right.
I think the quality of care that you get in the end is probably pretty decent. But again, it's a bureaucracy. It's not easy to access. Okay, so that's one level of Thai hospitals. Then the second level are what I think of as Thai private hospitals.
Okay.
So these are things where you're paying. It's more for-profit type thing, but it's predominantly catering to Thai people. So these are probably like catering towards like the Thai middle class and potentially maybe some wealthy Thais. And so these hospitals are considerably more expensive than the government hospitals, especially the 30 baht healthcare scheme. Right?
True that.
But then above that, there's another level of hospital which you could call the Thai international hospitals. And they're geared towards foreigners, a lot of times foreigners coming to Thailand for medical care. Like, the cliche is kind of like rich Arabs coming, but that's the cliche. And I think sometimes it is like that, like millionaires or even billionaires coming to Thailand. But I think it just means like world-class level of care. And of course that's the most expensive. And at these places, you're going to see a lot of foreigners, but also, of course, wealthy Thai people you'll see there as well. Does that 3-tiered structure make sense to you?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Yeah, it's almost like a school system in Thailand. You've got the regular one, and then you've got the mid-level one, the bilingual schools, and then you've got the super international schools, which cost an arm and a leg. So yeah, I mean,
in a way, that is a kind of a Thai. It is a Thai thing, and I've got a good story. Also involves my wife, but totally separate from the other story. A long time ago, thank God, I think 14 years ago, a very long time ago, my wife was in a bad motorbike accident. About the most dangerous thing you can do in Thailand is ride a motorbike. So listeners, be aware.
Yeah, no kidding.
And my wife was riding a motorbike herself. She was, operating it, and got into an accident and was knocked unconscious. And some total strangers, thank God for good-hearted strangers, is they took her to a very nearby hospital. So this, I can just tell you where this is. So she was on Petbury Road, and she was very close to, I think it's just called Petbury Hospital, and it's a Thai government hospital. She happened to be very close to when she was knocked unconscious. and some strangers carried her body to this hospital. And then eventually they figured out who she was, like from her purse or whatever. And her sister got a phone call, and I found out. And, I got a call at work, and I was like, your wife's been in an accident. She's at this hospital. And it was terrifying. But the reason I want to tell the story is that I go to this Thai government hospital, and she was in a big room with about like 30 other people.
Okay.
Just to let our listeners know, she survived and came out fine. Like, she came out 100%, but at that time she had a very serious head injury. And I'm talking to the Thai doctor through a translator, and he's super abrupt. Basically, what the guy was saying through the translator is, like, we're giving her antibiotics, we're giving her this thing to help blood flow, but basically there's nothing we can do.
Really? And
then he ran off to someone else. I got like a minute of interaction. And I was just like, holy, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm like freaking out, whatever. And once I got my wits together and whatever, and talked to like the nurses, got money together, I was just like, all right, I don't think this is going to work. Like, I got to get her into like an international hospital.
Right.
And so basically that's what happened. I arranged to have her moved. She was only partially conscious. She was coming in and out of consciousness, and it's not easy to move someone. And we've got an ambulance, and not very far from where we were was a Bangkok hospital. So it's literally called Bangkok Hospital, and it's one of the better known international hospitals. So it's kind of around the corner on Soi Suan Wee Chai off of Petpuri Road. So
I've been there. It's a great hospital.
And it was fascinating because when we pulled in there, it was like people came out of the doors and like met us, and like it's just immediately, it's like the level of service was like amplified. It was just right. It was like instantaneously like clear.
It was like you're a rich guy pulling up to a hotel in like a Maserati.
Yeah, it was like 3 people are coming out, and I was just like, whoa, this is like amazing. And they take her in, and of course we had phoned ahead, and they knew about the transfer. And then I was going to meet with the doctor, like it was like a neurologist or whatever. And it was fascinating because it was a Thai guy, but he had a swanky office. He spoke perfect English. I come in, he tells me to sit down. He's got like CT scans like up on the wall, and he basically just says like, okay, let me explain to you what the problem is. And he's like, okay, here's the skull. You see this right here? And then there's a layer, and then there's a layer. And for like 20 minutes, he walks me through everything. But here's the kicker. At the end of it, he goes, right now, we really can't do much more than wait and see what happens. Like, he gave the exact same advice as the Thai hospital. It was just just level of care. It's like he held my hand, he explained everything in perfect English. It made me feel so much better.
That's really interesting, and I wonder if that's just a bedside manner thing. It's just the personality of the guy makes all the difference. What if that guy was working at the original?
Well, it's also money. I mean, I'm sure the second guy was making 10 times more than the Thai guy, unfortunately. Like it was just the level of care, and so whatever. So in that case, I really was paying for comfort, but to me at the time it was worth it. I was just like, I felt so much better because the other guy was the other guy. It turns out the two guys gave identical medical advice.
That's really interesting because I have a similar story because a buddy of mine was here and he was visiting from Canada, and he got a mosquito bite while he was spending like a week on Koh Samet, and it got infected and turned into like this really hard lump on his leg, and this little clinic on Samet could only give him some antibiotics and stuff like that. So I went down and spent a few days with him, and by the time we got back to Bangkok, it was clear that he needed medical attention. This thing was getting infected, and it was his leg was starting to swell up. And we went to a hospital, a sort of a mid-level hospital, and the guy basically said, okay, you need to, and through very broken English, and it's kind of rough around the edges a little bit. And he's like, okay, you need to check into the hospital. We need to have surgery, and we need to take care of this right away. And my buddy was a little bit trepidatious. He wanted to, he wanted to make sure he had the best healthcare because he had full insurance that would pay for anything. So he said, "What do you think?" And I was like, "Well, let's go to like Bummergrad because that's like the top hospital, right?" So I said, "Let's go to Bummergrad. You're guaranteed to get really good service there, and if insurance is paying for it, then why not?" So we went to Bummergrad, and it was the exact same experience. He had, people wheel him out on a like a gurney and stuff like that, and they checked him in, and he had a swank private room with a TV and Wi-Fi, and the advice they gave exactly the same. We got to get you checked in. We got to get you into surgery, and you're probably gonna be here for a week.
It's a strange thing because I'm sure that they must have some experts at those expensive hospitals that are not at the cheaper hospitals. I'm sure that must be the case. Like they must be capable of doing more sophisticated surgeries and things like that. They must be. But the bottom line is, I think you're really paying for the comfort and the care and the special handling and the better English. Like,
it's peace of mind, man. And that in itself is almost a medical
that's
thing.
why, it's funny because I never regretted making the move, like to Bangkok Hospital. It was 7 or 8 times more expensive. It was more than 5 times more expensive. But I basically really never doubted it, because it was just, I just felt so much more comfortable there. It's like they were so good. And I mean, it's the level of English, and it was the time that the guy had.
It's a simple thing, but it makes such a huge difference, and especially in a stressful situation like that, where all you want is someone to give you a hug, and say it's all good, we got this.
Yeah, I mean it was, but I mean I remember it just, I think I was in his office for 30 to 45 minutes, and he just answered any question because I had all these questions. I didn't know anything about head injuries or head trauma, and he just was willing to talk to me for as long as I needed.
One story I tell a lot is my experience getting an MRI for my back because I've got a bad back, and I went to Bummergrad, and I walked in and the doctor examined me, and he's like, "Yeah, I think we need to take some." He took some X-rays, and he's like, "Okay, there's a problem here. We need to do an MRI." And the only experience I had with MRI was my parents back in Canada. Now, say what you will about nationalized medicine. Generally free for everyone, but it's not the like sort of unicorn paradise that everyone thinks it is. There's still long waiting times.
There's a problem, sure.
Yeah, exactly. So my stepdad had to wait for like 3 months to get an MRI or something like that. So he's like, "We're gonna need an MRI," and I said, "Okay, well, okay, when can we do that?" And he looked at his watch and he goes, "Can you come back tonight?" And I was like, and actually I was watching a TV show that night. I remember I had plans to go home and watch this show with my wife. It was on TV, and I was like, actually, can I come back tomorrow? And he goes, yeah, okay, come back tomorrow. So I went to an MRI, and I actually put him off because I was too busy.
Funny. It's strange. I've talked to my family about this. It's like my sisters, my family, my friends, like we're all getting older now. So, most of us have some kind of medical problems, and, and it's like so I've had these conversations with my family and friends about Thai medical care, and they're curious what it's like over here, and it really is like a balancing of pros and cons. It's like, I think, so for example, in Canada, you have this something like the National Health Service that Britain has, but you've got to deal with like wait lists and wait times and stuff. So it's not perfect, So in the US, we don't have that. And
it's an understatement.
Yeah, we don't have that. But we do have a high quality of care in general, especially if you can pay for it. So if I was going to have like some sophisticated procedure, I would want to be in my hometown. But I got to be honest, if I needed any run-of-the-mill surgery, I would rather be in Thailand. Because I think that, I think the medical care here is good. It's genuinely good. So it's strange. It's like I kind of feel pretty good about being here, and I would only feel bad about being here if I had some quite sophisticated problem.
Interesting you say that, because I was talking to a friend of mine today actually about tonight's show, and he just got some treatment for prostate cancer, and he didn't end up getting this, but it was a potential option for him. But he could have gotten proton therapy, which is like a brand new thing. It's like one step beyond traditional radiation therapy. So I think we also should mention that a lot of the equipment in some of these top level hospitals is like super cutting edge, as cutting edge as you'd find in any like top level hospital in any country in the world.
Yeah, for sure. I think that the best hospitals here do have cutting edge stuff, and I think you will have to pay for it, but you would have to pay less for it here than probably in the States.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, you had like gold plated insurance in the States. I don't know. It's like, I do have worries about living here, but it's funny. It's like medical care is just not one of them.
That's a really good way to put it. Well, I have my last story is a little bit of a funny one, and a couple of years ago I came back from Laos, a trip to Laos, and I had rotavirus, although I didn't know it at the time, so just like a gastrointestinal infection, and I just was like really sick, and I thought I had food poisoning, bad food poisoning, and I remember I woke up late, like 11:30 at night, and I was sweating and weak, and I called a Grab, and I got them to take me to Bumrungrad Hospital, and my advice would just be to not try to be cool at hospitals. Just let them take care of you, because I walked in and on the ride over there, I looked up the Thai term for food poisoning because I didn't know it. And the term for food poisoning is ahan ben bit, which means ahan is food, ben is like to be, and bit is toxic or contaminated. Right. So ahan ben bit is food poisoning. So I was like, oh, well, I can probably leave out the ben part and just say ahan bit, and it's probably good. So I was like getting all ready to be like cool and walking to the hospital and being like, hey, I'm a local and I have food poisoning. So I walked up to the guy and he said, on the information desk, and he said, oh yes, can I help you? And I said, ahan pet, which means duck food. So he's like, in English, he said, can I help you? And this foreigner says, duck food. And he's like, what?
Classic.
And I said, oh, I have food poisoning, I think. And he said, okay, well, come on over here.
That's
and
funny.
They took good care of me.
Well, I mean, if you're at those hospitals, they speak English. That's what you're paying for, dude.
Exactly. Yeah. And one last thing before we go, our buddy Stu J. Raj, who has been on the show before as a linguist and Thai specialist, he posted something recently on his Facebook page, and I thought it was worth a mention. It's this website by the Department of Internal Trade, and the web address is hospitals.dit.go.th. It's all in Thai, but it lets you compare the price of drugs at different hospitals around the Bangkok area.
I did see that. That was a fairly amazing link, because it just showed you how different hospitals charge different amounts. And of course, the private hospitals and the international hospitals, they do charge more for the same drugs.
Yeah. And I just a sample here, I put in, I looked up Arcoxia, which is a sort of a medicine that both you and I, Ed, have used for our backs, our screwed up old man backs.
Right.
And it says Arcoxia, Merck, Sharp, and Dome USA. Etoracoxib is the name of the drug, I guess. 120 milligram film coated tablet, 1 tablet. And it compares a whole bunch of hospitals. And check this out. The price of one 120 milligram pill of Arcoxia ranges from 64 baht at, oh God, I'm really bad with reading Thai, but this is wrong Payaban, Fan Kanat Lek. I'm not sure where that is. But anyway, some hospital somewhere sells it for 64 baht. And then you all go all the way down to the bottom, and the most expensive hospital for the same pill, 257 baht.
No, that's great. That's perfect. Yeah, that's a great resource. And it's funny because at the beginning of this episode, which has turned out to be quite long, it's like, I gave kind of 3 intro points, but in a way, I think a good point for our conclusion is that it does pay to shop around here. It's like whether you're going from Thai government to Thai private to international, the prices are very different. And you might be able to settle, like, you have to decide whether it's worth paying for something or not. But there is a difference. Like, you do get a different level of care depending on what you pay for.
My one bit of advice, too, and I always try to do this, is if possible, at the end of your visit, when you're collecting your medicine, just say to the doctor, or say to the doctor before, like, hey, is there any medicine that I can get outside of the hospital? Because you can get a lot of stuff in drugstores in Thailand. And as we just talked about, A lot of there's a pretty significant markup on a lot of them. You can't get everything, but if they're going to give you like some ibuprofen or something like that, just be like, I'll get that at Boots at the drugstore at the corner.
Definitely.
I don't need to buy it from the hospital.
Very good advice.
That's my one bit of advice.
Yes, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly.
Well, I think we're lucky to be living in a country like Thailand. There is very good healthcare available, but there are some things you need to know first. So research.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, let's get into some love, loathe, or live with, where one of us surprises the other with a particular aspect of life in Bangkok, which we then discuss and decide if it's something we love about living here, loathe about living here, or have just merely come to accept it as part of the crazy life we live in Bangkok. So this week, it is back over to me. You gave me a food-based trivial tie for our quiz segment on the bonus show, so I'm going to give you a food-based love, loathe, or live with. Yeah. What do you think of MK restaurants?
Oh, interesting question. I know. Okay, so let me say. So MK is a very popular brand of Thai restaurants, and for me, I always associate MK with S&P, even though I think they're totally different, and I think they compete, and they're not really that similar, but they're kind of like, I think of them as kind of like Thai family restaurants. Does that make sense? It's like I feel like there's a very both S&P and MK, they have kind of this middle class vibe.
Yeah, I agree.
They're not.
See a lot of families in there for dinner, like a cheap little place to take your kids and enjoy. And
they're not too expensive, but they're not. It's not street food.
Right.
Here's the truth. I'm basically not a fan of either MK or S&P. Like for me, it's strange. It's like, in a way, it kind of doesn't make sense. But I like Thai street food, and then I like nice Thai restaurants. For some reason, it's like this like middle level. It doesn't do anything for me. I'm not sure why.
Oh. Look at Mr. Ed and his high horse over here.
No, but it's not. It's like I like street food. So it's not like I'm looking for some place to spend more money. That doesn't make sense.
I dig it.
It's like MK and S&P. MK especially, I don't know. In my experience, I feel like it's more crowded. I always feel like when my wife wants to go to MK, it's like we're waiting in line. And I don't know. And it's like I'm not a huge fan of the pot at the table.
To cook your own food. Because they've got a pot of boiling water in the middle of the table, and you order your ingredients, and then you dump it in the pot.
Yeah, it's a very Thai/Asian. I know it's also, there's Korean barbecue and stuff. I'm not a big fan of the pot in the middle of the table. I don't know, maybe it's just because I didn't grow up that way. I'm not exactly sure. I guess, so if I had to choose between, I think it's MK tends to be crowded, man. It's like every time I go, it's always crowded. And
so is this a loathe?
I wouldn't say loathe. I tend to just avoid it. I'm gonna go live with, but don't really like it. Not a big fan. Not a big fan. What do you think? I'm curious. What do you think?
I love it. I love MK, and when people say that I don't like it, I don't really get it.
Interesting.
I think it's great. It's not expensive. It's healthy because you're basically making boiled vegetables. The sauce they have, the dipping sauce, I really love that. And they've got really good duck and red pork, and you can order a small plate or a big plate, and they bring out a solid plate of meat, which is good. So that plus like a nice vegetable soup, I think it's great. I love it. I really enjoy going there, and I don't get why people say they dislike it. I think it's interesting. It's good all around food.
I mean,
good for vegetarians, good for meat eaters.
Everything you say makes sense. And I could see, some people get a little bit freaked out about street food. But if you're the kind of person who's like, when you look at street food and you're like, that's kind of sketchy, then I think MK totally makes sense because it's obviously like cleaner and it's in a lot of ways it's the same thing, but obviously cleaner and nicer, and you're cooking your own food. So I think it makes sense from that respect. Yeah, I'm not sure why I never caught on. I mean, I've gone there many times. I don't know. I just never got into it. Maybe I just, I think we talked about last week how I do actually put ice in my beer. So I do change my ways, but like the cooking.
You're going to come around, man. In a few more years, you're going to be sitting at an MK with ice in your beer. You're going to have your wife beater pulled up over your belly.
I don't know.
Gone full time.
I just never got into like boiling the food at the table. Just I'm going to go live with.
All right, cool. Definitely not a Western thing, but I'm a fan.
All right. All right. Well, before we wrap up, I'd like to give a special thanks to all of our lovely patrons. As you know, we don't run ads or have sponsors, so we really do appreciate the support we get from our patrons. If you want to learn more, just head to bangkokpodcast.com/support. And if you want to get in touch with us, it's easy. Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. It doesn't get any easier than that. We are very polite, and if you write, we will answer.
Yeah, you can also find each episode on YouTube, and you can also follow us online where we post each episode and carry on conversations with you, our listeners. You can also reach out to me directly on Twitter, Brian BKK Greg. So thank you for listening, everyone. We'll see you back here next week.
No doubt. I'm a kind of a dick to my students about peeing in class. Like in theory, like you should be able to pee. Like, you know, if you have to pee, you should be able to get up and go. But I just find it so annoying. And then what my students do is, like, as soon as one student gets up, like another one gets up, and they're like, oh shit, I can just stand up. So I basically have a policy that, like, they have to pee before class.
Interesting. When I was teaching high school, I hated it because they'd be like, can I go to the bathroom? And I'd be like, yes. And then they would just not come back. Like, there was a couple of students that were just idiots, and they would just leave.